Welcome to the podcast where motherhood meets reinvention. I'm your host, Sharon Macey, and this is Mom to More. I'll be speaking with remarkable moms who have embraced the art of transformation, crafting their more by leveraging the skills they hone as stay-at-home moms. They'll share their experiences, struggles, and successes as they return to a former career, pursued a passion or hobby, or charted an entirely new path, giving you the clarity, motivation, and inspiration to help you answer the question, what do you want to do when your kids grow up?
I went to NYU Film School, and as soon as I got out of film school, I made my first feature film. Like, oh, I could make a living doing this, and I'm going to be a rock star, and I'm going to be rich. It's like the very opposite happened for years and years and years.
Yeah.
I didn't really start making real money until 10 years ago. It was a 30-year journey. I don't want to sugarcoat this as if it was always a fun ride. And mostly in those years of struggle, the thing that I've taken away is this idea of peace. It's been a faith walk from 0 to 53.
Hi, it's Sharon. Welcome back to Mom to More. Okay, today I have a mom that is a total force to be reckoned with, whose story will be a complete and total inspiration to everyone listening. Christine Swanson is a visionary storyteller from Detroit who is also a multiple award-winning director, including 3 nominations for NAACP Image Awards. She earned her BA from Notre Dame and her MFA in film from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. Recognized early as a talented filmmaker, Christine was selected by NYU faculty as the Willard T.C. Johnson Fellow, the most prestigious fellowship given to the student who has achieved high standards in his or her work. CNN identified Christine as one of the most promising filmmakers to emerge from NYU's graduate film program since Martin Scorsese, Ang Lee, Oliver Stone, and Spike Lee, who, by the way, was Christine's NYU directing teacher. How cool is that? Christine has developed, written, and or directed entertainment projects for HBO Films, Lionsgate, Universal Television, Warner Brothers Television, CBS Television Studio, TV One, A&E Networks, BET Films, Stars, and Faith Filmworks. I think that covers just about every studio out there, right, Christine? Her work is powerful, raw, riveting, and real. Christine is fire, and of course, she is a mom to 4 kids. Christine, you had me at action.
Yeah,
I am so excited to chat with you today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. So the more I dug into you, the more I was like, holy cow, I cannot wait to talk to this woman. So let's just jump right in. All right. We know that you have 4 kids. So where did you raise them? And I also think that at least one of your kids might be following in your footsteps.
That's right. So mainly I had 3 of my kids in Los Angeles, and we spent a lot of time early on in their youth in Los Angeles. And then by the time I had my 3rd child, we decided that we should move someplace slower and maybe a little cheaper than Los Angeles. So we threw a dart on a map, and it landed in Charlotte. And then so we lived in Charlotte for 5 years, and that's where we had our 4th and final child, and my only daughter. And then after spending 5 years in Charlotte, and about '08, when the whole economy crashed, we decided that we needed to go back to Los Angeles because the industry that we worked in primarily was in LA. So we came back to Los Angeles in 2010, and we've been here ever since.
Right. And the weather's kind of nice out there versus Charlotte. So
yeah,
well, it's a great city. Yeah.
It's a great city. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So your stay-at-home mom story, everyone's is so unique. What prompted your decision to stay home with the kids?
Well, honestly, after I had my first child, now I know what it was, but something in my brain shifted, and I couldn't get that creative mojo going as at the same time that I'm trying to wrangle managing an infant for the first time. And I didn't anticipate that. Nobody told me that. I just thought like, okay, no big deal. We'll just rock and roll. And it just didn't happen like that for me. And so that was the early sign that I just probably need to focus on this child and make sure that they're well. And then I always laugh and say, kind of like in my depression, I had three more kids.
You have four, I've got three. That was enough.
Well, then, and then when I had the rest of the three, it just was obvious that this was a full-time job
Right.
for two people. Um, and the best thing that I could do at that time was to focus on their well-being. So
Mhm.
it kind of took me out of the workforce, and I de facto became a stay-at-home mom, even though that was not the goal or the plan, but that's what it was. And I stayed a stay-at-home mom for the next 15 years straight.
Significant, significant. Now,
Yeah.
you had a special phrase for your time as a stay-at-home mom. What was that?
I said God gave me a 15-year timeout. He
Which
made
I
me
love.
sit
I mean, is
down.
that not so spot on or what?
Yeah, I think so because prior to my first child, I mean, I was all in and kind of ambitious in a way that was just, I mean, it just forced all my energies and focus into the work that I was doing,
Mhm.
and that's why I felt like it was a time out. Like I got like snatched out of that and like placed somewhere and sat down. You stay here. And then and the irony of it is it felt like it was punishment because I couldn't do the thing that I thought I loved so much. And turns out, you look at your 24-year-old son, the one that I say to his face, I'm like, you ruined my career, you know? He's the one who's following in my footsteps. He graduated from NYU Film School and he's a director.
Congratulations.
Yeah, director in his own right. But what I find myself saying to people now is like, hey, do you feel successful in your life and in your career? And I'm like, I do feel successful, and most of that had to do with the fact that I raised four children. I'm still raising them, but I had a hand in the development of four human beings that
Hmm.
I'm proud of, that I love, and who actually make me a better human being. And I just don't know who I would be without having had that experience. So I'm like,
100%.
I think
Yeah.
I'm already successful because I did that, and I feel good about it.
And also raising the next generation of humans is an extraordinary feat. Just just doing that. And I think a lot of us, and I'll include myself, is when you're doing it, you're like, what am I doing? I feel like I'm lost. I'm not contributing, but we are. And I think moms really have to recognize that. And then all the skills that we gain while we're doing that. And so that would be my next question to you is let's talk about what you learned about yourself during
Right,
your 15-year timeout. I'm going to use that going forward forever.
right.
The skills you built that would carry you forward into your next chapter.
Well, here's the funny thing, because now I direct a lot of like network shows that you see on television, and these are like fast movie machines,
Mm-hmm.
production, and it's a lot of money's on the line. Just the stakes are really high, and honestly, the best skill set that I've brought to the table stems from my experience as a mother, and that pretty much is like I'm a mother to a lot of kids on set, and that's not to diminish like the people that I work with, but we're always managing crises. Like, oh my goodness, we don't have this for this shot. We don't, and then I find myself having been in worse situations when you're dealing with kids when one has diarrhea and the other one is projectile vomiting at the same time. It's like I just don't think this is the end of the world, whatever we're dealing with. So I feel like I have this calm where I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, nothing is insurmountable and nothing like throws me off. And I can deal with things that come up in a way where it's like, again, it's my mommy skills. It's like, what's the need? What can we manage? What can't we manage? And let's focus on what's doable right now. And that, I kid you not, that peace, that calm, and that sense of direction that I have with the work that I do
Mm-hmm.
comes from being a mom for the past 24 years.
How true. Thank you for that. That was amazing. you're a director. How do you compare being a mom to being a director?
I think they're the same job, actually. And mainly because you're responsible for a lot of people
Mhm.
and you have to get them somewhere by a certain time, and everybody needs to feel good about what they're contributing, and they need to be well fed and appreciated. Like that's a mom, 24/7.
Right. This episode is brought to you by Boll and Branch, the luxury home goods brand behind the softest, dreamiest, 100% organic cotton bedding. I love their sheets, and yes, they really do get softer with every wash. And I want you to have the comfort of a great night's sleep because as moms, we all need it, deserve it, and Boll and Branch makes it easy. Use code MOMTOMORE20 for 20% off your entire order with no minimum. Some exclusions apply. Sweet dreams start here. Check them out. When we first spoke, you mentioned something which I thought was really interesting. You said that you knew that you were never not on the right path. It was
Mm.
just the timing to do what you always wanted to do as a storyteller, but it was going to take some time to get there, and you were totally cool with that.
No, I wasn't in the
Oh,
moment when I was
in,
living when I was in the wilderness, and it
okay.
just felt like never-ending days of, you know what
Yeah.
it is in the
Oh, yeah.
trenches as a
Yeah.
mom. But I have to say there was always joy in that too, because I genuinely enjoyed raising my children and spending time with them and getting them to where they needed to go. It's because honestly, and you know this, we miss that now, don't we?
We do sometimes. Yeah, you're
We miss
right.
that. We
You
miss
do.
that.
Yeah.
And what I
Yeah.
realize is, I honestly sometimes I'm like, can I go back and enjoy it in a pure way, as opposed to always looking to see when something new is going to come on the horizon, something better or something I thought I desired. And in hindsight, when I look back, it's the scripture that says God gives you the desires of your heart, and you think you might know what that desire is, but God knows.
Mhm.
So God knew that the desire of my heart was to be a mom to kids and to help shape them and to make contributions to the world that come through my children. It doesn't My contributions are not through my storytelling. In fact, sometimes that's a poverty of thought. Think about it, like as an artist and as a creative, the idea of creating a human entity
Yeah.
that you shape and that you mold and that you
Mhm.
offer to the world in the hopes of making it better, like that's the height of creativity. And so it's ironic that I thought that I was missing out in my career as a creative when I was doing the most high creative work
True.
in managing these four human beings. It's really about perspective and where you are in life. So it's not that I couldn't do it all, because I knew in my gut, like, I can do it all. It's just that we could not do it at the same time. And
Right.
I'm glad that it happened in pieces, because in trying to do it at the same time, something suffers. I had to focus on the task in front of me. And in doing that and not trying to hybrid my life, this part did not suffer.
True.
And
True.
now, consequently, my kids are adults and they are autonomous and they are doing what they need to do.
Right.
And now, I don't have to focus so much on that part of it, and I can focus on the work, and that doesn't suffer. So
Right.
it's about the timing of doing things. When it's the right time, it works. I'm
Hmm.
53. It took me
Okay.
53 years to learn that, you
There you
know?
go. And
So,
I love that attitude and vision. So I'm going to ask you, list your top three skills that you think you have honed from your time as a stay-at-home mom, and the ones that are really helping you in your director
mm,
world right now.
one is accumulating and cultivating great empathy.
Mm.
Um, two is extraordinary attention to time management. Um, Lastly, I would say motherhood taught me patience
Hmm.
and the idea of surrendering, that I can't control the outcome every single time. And so I take all three of that with me to every job that I do. And it's
That
always a pleasure.
that is terrific. I love your perspective on that, Christine. So, Christine, you went through a very difficult period in your family life, which I would like for you to share because it speaks to your internal fortitude and your ability to keep moving forward.
When in 2008 the economy crashed, and prior to that we were making a living on residual incomes on the sales of this now antiquated thing called DVDs.
Mm,
And then about 2008 was the entry of a company called Netflix, and Netflix essentially wiped out the DVD business as streaming became the go-to movie watching mechanism. And so what we were faced with was a situation where we used to have an income and it went to nothing, like
mm,
overnight. And with no backup plans and no trust funds, we didn't inherit money. We're not from generational wealth. So we actually lost our home. And one time, I remember one Thanksgiving, we had $20 in the bank, and we had a discussion on as to do we spend it on getting gas or do we get food for today?
mm.
So
Yeah.
so we were truly we were homeless, and it's relative, but in our
Mhm.
situation, we lost our home and we didn't have another place to go. So it was a really stressful
That's
time,
extraordinary, Christine.
and then we had
I
four
mean,
children. So we packed them up in our car and we drove cross country to Los Angeles, where my husband did find a job like as an apprentice at a network.
mhm,
Um, but we barely had enough gas money to go cross country. But with the little money that we had, we're like, okay, we're gonna go. We're gonna stop in various cities where we have friends, and then we would stay with our friends in every city. As we were leaving, that friend would put $100 in our hand or $200 in our hand, and that was enough money then to get to the next city. We could feed our kids, fill up the tank, and then we'd stay with some more friends, and they're like, here's a little bit of gas money, as if, and we didn't always say like we're broke, but it's as
mhm.
if kindness
Yeah.
um just
It
surrounded
followed
us.
you. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. And it allowed us to make it all the way to Los Angeles. When we arrived in LA, we didn't have a place to stay. We're calling around to see where we could rent. And then a friend of ours reached out to us and said, hey, my mom has a big house in Los Angeles, and she can rent out two of the rooms to you and your family. And for a very affordable amount, we were able to live for the first 6 months in Los Angeles
Mhm.
with my friend's mother, and all four kids, and me and my husband. So I just call that the grace of God tour, and but by God's
Truly.
grace, we made it. And fast forward to the today, it's shocking to hear like how rock bottom that we hit when we're
Yeah.
doing just fine now.
What a powerful story that I think probably really shaped you, um, and how you were able to manifest your future from being in that
Mm.
situation. Thank you for sharing that. So, when did you realize that film production was a real job?
Well, um, mind you, I went to NYU Film School, so I was doing film
Hmm.
production while I was a student at NYU, and as soon as I got out of film school, I made my first feature film. And so I knew right away, like, oh, I could make a living doing this, and I'm gonna be a rock star, and I'm gonna be rich. It's just you're young and you idealize a situation. It's like the very opposite
Right.
happened. And that was that kind of situation for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't really start making real money doing what I'm doing until 10 years ago. So how
Okay.
long was that? it was a 30-year journey before I
Sure.
actually started to really benefit from production and the work that I do as a writer, director, producer. So, the it's a long game. And it worked fine for me, however hard. I don't want to, sugarcoat this as if it was
Hmm.
always a fun ride, but the path that I went on and the stops that I made were, I think, imprinted in God's design for my life.
Hmm.
And you only know that in hindsight. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And mostly in those years of struggle, the thing that I've taken away is this idea of peace that I have that defies understanding, because it's been a faith walk, um, from 0 to 53.
Okay, so you talked about this path that you have walked for 53 years, but talk about the challenges getting back into filmmaking after, 2008 when the world crashed.
Well, it was a weird time with COVID, and then we had a strike. But
Mhm.
how I got back into it was, I got a call from a studio executive at a small cable network in Maryland, and she said, "Hey, in 1999, I met you at Sundance when you had a short film in that festival, and I always remembered you. And I'm turning biblical stories into modern day stories, vis-a-vis movies, and I want you
Mhm.
to direct our first one." And I was like,
You're
how'd
like,
you get my
what?
number?" So that
Yeah.
really started me on my path, and these were like grueling productions, like not a lot of money, and we're shooting feature films in 12 days, which is unheard of. But it threw me back in, and honestly, like it's as if I never left. Like the
That
things
was
I
your
had to catch on were more.
trial by fire.
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
it was so intuitive for me that I just was like boom, 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 and I'm like, "Oh, I can do this." And I
Yeah.
just had the things that I had to learn were technical, but that stuff those are skills that you can learn, but the intangible skills that are required that makes a good director good, I always had it. Remember, empathy,
Yeah.
time management, and ability to not be flustered.
Right.
So all of that was I that was built inside of me, in the trenches with my kids. So, and on top of that, it's I just know storytelling. I know how to direct actors. I know what's a good performance, and all of that was just coming into play in that first film, and then it led to a second film, then it led to a third film, then it led to a movie at Lifetime, and then it led
Mhm.
to me starting to direct my first episode of TV called Chicago PD, and then that led to me direct. So it was a non-stop kind of a wheel, because once you do something and you're good at it and word gets out, you start to get booked on things, and now
Mhm.
it's I have a full schedule of projects, to
I
do,
love
some of
that.
which I have
Yeah.
to turn down because I don't have the time to do everything.
Hey, y'all. Time to talk about my sponsor, Ally Shoes. Hands down, the most comfortable shoes I've ever worn. The way they're designed, by women, of course, and engineered with this cushy insole design and perfectly placed padding, I can literally wear these shoes all day, and I cannot say that about other brands that I have worn. But don't take my word for it. Ask InStyle, Business Insider, and CNN, who are saying the same thing. And I'm sharing the love with all of you. Head on over to ally.nyc, where new customers and listeners of the pod will get $40 off your first pair of heels, classic, kitten, bold block, or sexy slingbacks with special code MOMTOMORE40. And 10% off your first pair of boots and flats, so 10% off of each, with special code MOMTOMORE10. Check out your ally in fashion who are reimagining how comfort and function support women every day. Ally.nyc.
Let's talk about your most recent film, which has recently come out, called
Right?
Albany Road.
Correct.
It's available now. And I will point out that it won Best Feature Film at the Martha's Vineyard Black Film Festival. And you were also invited to screen it at Spike Lee's graduate film class. So
Yes.
tell my audience a little about this film. I cannot wait to see it.
Albany Road is currently in theaters across the country. Check your AMC listings and go check it out in theaters. But this was a movie that my husband and I 100% financed ourselves. Talk about a
Mm,
full circle moment. Um, it was a passion project,
hmm
and um, this was our first movie together post children. So it was just monumental in a lot of ways, but
right.
it's a movie about two intergenerational women who find themselves at an airport, and because of a snowstorm, all the flights are canceled, and they're forced to share the last rental car left in the airport to drive from New York to DC. But turns out the reason why they hate each other is because the younger woman used to be engaged to the older woman's son, and the reason why they're
Ooh.
not together anymore is because the older woman broke them up.
Mm.
So there's this tension uh, in the car ride that is palpable. But what we learn over time is that these women are really um, two sides of the same coin. They're the same person, and they really have to depend on each other to kind of grow in ways that fosters healing, forgiveness, reconciliation. So it starts off like a little bumpy, and then it turns into like really a love story between these two women who um, learn to rely on each other to become their best
Mhm.
selves.
I love that. I love that. And I also, the fact that you have four of your main characters are these multifaceted female characters.
Yes,
So, and in this film, starring the incomparable Renee Elise Goldsberry of
correct.
Hamilton fame, what is it about strong women that inspires you? Because I look at you and I'm like, you are a strong woman, girl.
The movie also stars Lynn Whitfield. So you have Renee
Mm.
Goldsberry and Lynn Whitfield
Lynn
going at
Whitfield.
it.
Oh my gosh.
Rich. It's really rich. So the thing that I love about strong women is that a lot of times we don't have an opportunity to show our vulnerability and weaknesses
Mm.
because that humanizes us. So it's a deep dive into what does it take to become a strong woman, and what does it cost us along the way. And in exploring these types of questions, what you have is a fully realized human being who's triumphant at times, but that also deeply struggles. And it's in the watching the process of struggling that they go through that we lean in and we understand that we too are these people. So it's always fun to unpack these stories of strong women, but ultimately we understand that there are steps that they had to take, sometimes painful, to get to that moment of strength.
So true. So true. And I also realize from our conversation that faith plays a big part of your life. And I assume that's where the name Faith Filmworks came from, which is the production company that you have with your
Yes.
husband.
Yes. Our faith is not so much about the content that we produce, so it's not
Hmm
about making faith-based movies, but the journey that we have been on and from where we started and where we've come took a deep level of faith that we didn't even know
Yeah.
that we had. So it's funny that I think we were foreshadowing
hmm
um, our journey, and in calling it Faith Filmworks, we really had to dig into what that meant for us, especially in the low times when you're homeless,
mm
and
Oh, yeah.
in the high times when it's really about choosing where you need to spend your time that could be of most value. So it's still a faith walk for us, because I
hmm
just don't because we just did a whole movie and spent all our own money, and we don't know like what's gonna happen on the other side of it. But there's a peace that we have because our faith is grounded in something bigger than ourselves. God is there when you win. God is there when you lose. But because God is there, you're going to be fine. I feel like I've been blessed to have an opportunity to work out uh, these skill sets that I have in a meaningful way when I get to interact with so many different people and we come together to create something that we
hmm
believe will affect people's hearts. That in and of itself is a gift.
That is an incredible gift. And also how people react to the work that you do and how they take it in and how they metabolize it, and what it and really what it means to them on a very like organic and emotional level. So I applaud that and all you've done and just your journey from mom and your time out and the challenges that your family had and how you have ended up on the other side today is just inspiring and brilliant. We are unfortunately coming to the end of our time together, but since this is the Mom to More podcast, Christine Swanson, I'd like to ask you, what is your more?
I think my more is being content with less. And by that it means like finding the joy where you are and not where you want to be. And so when we can find contentment, whatever the circumstances, it allows us to have more joy. It allows us to have more peace. It allows us to have more understanding, more empathy, and just more for the things that matter and less for the things that you cannot control.
That is so wise. So, Christine, please tell our listeners where everyone can find you online, your website, if you're on Instagram, and this will all be in the show notes, folks.
The two places that I would love people to check out are at albanyroadmovie.com and faithfilmworks.com. And my Instagram handle is cswanson44.
All righty. Well, I highly recommend that people see the movie. And Christine Swanson, what a joy. This has been so much fun. And I'm so grateful for the time we spent together.
Thank you for having me.
Before I sign off, a quick favor. Following the Mom to More pod means you'll never miss an episode, and it really helps the show to grow. And if you'd be willing to leave a 5-star rating and review and share an episode with another mom, I'd be super grateful and appreciate your support. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.